Today we continue to listen Silavanta Sutta. Venerable Sariputra was answering question put to him by Venerable Magutika and had said that virtuous and instructed bhikkhu should attend carefully to the five aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, as suffering, as disease, as non-self, etc. There are altogether 11 aspects of the five aggregates. One aspect is to consider as disintegration, parlokato. A bhikkhu, a yogi should attend to the five aggregates as disintegrating or dissolving. There are two kinds of disintegration: moment to moment disintegrating and disintegration at the end of our life. We should see the five aggregates of clinging as disintegrating moment by moment. Seeing this moment by moment disappearance, we can understand the last disintegration of what we call life. A bhikkhu yogi should see the five aggregates of clinging as disintegrating, and when he sees the impermanent nature of the aggregates, he sees both the arising and disintegrating. Since he sees the disintegrating, he is able to see the impermanent nature. And a bhikkhu yogi should see the five aggregates of clinging as empty. Whatever you observe, disappearing so fast, you cannot say that it is self. Whatever sensation arises, you observe. Whatever mental state arises, you observe. Come and go very quickly. So you see empty of anatta, empty of an abiding self. When you observe the five aggregates, you see only the five aggregates and nothing more that you can call a self or a soul. At every moment of your noting, you understand that there is the objects that is noted and the mind that notes. And they dissolving, they vanishing very quickly. And Venerable Sariputra described the five aggregates, subject to clinging as impermanent, suffering, a disease, a tumor, a death, misery, affliction, alien, disintegrating, empty, and non-self. So 11 aspects. These 11 aspects can be accepted as an authentic teaching of the Buddha. And 11 aspects can be condensed to only 3: impermanence, anicca, and disintegration, paloka, actually means the same thing. That is anicca. Dukkha, suffering. Disease. Chuma, death, misery, affliction, roga, ganda, abada, etc. are all aspects of suffering, dukkha. An alien, empty, para, sunya, and non-self, anatta, are attributes of anatta. So again, you meet the 3 characteristics: anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Seeing the 3 characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, is not so easy, because there are certain barriers, certain obstacles, conceal them. Why people fail to see anicca, impermanence? Because they do not see the arising and disappearing of the 5 aggregates. So we are tricked by continuity, santati. Santati, continuity, hides the nature of anicca, impermanence. We look at 5 aggregates and see them as continuous. In order to see impermanence, we must observe closely the arising and disappearing of the 5 aggregates. We must observe the arising and disappearing of the phenomena. So we must penetrate by means of concentration and insight knowledge developed in meditation through the impression of continuity, which acts as a cover of impermanence. Let us think of a ring of fire. Someone has a torch and twirls it to create an impression of a circle of fire. But we know that there is really no ring of fire. It is just the impression of individual position of the fire at different places and at different times. But our mind takes the impression as something continuous, Rather, our mind connects the impression and we deceive ourselves. If we could take a moving pictures of the process and watch it as a slow speed, we would see the individual parts of the sequence of the apparent ring of fire. We would only see light at different places and not a circle. If we cannot pinpoint the components of things in order to see them arising and disappearing, we will continue to see things as whole entities. So let us note here that impermanence in this context means kana nature, momentary impermanence. If we drop a cup which breaks, we say, yes, it is impermanent. It can be broken because of its nature. Or if a person dies, we say that a person is impermanent. These examples of impermanence are easy to see, but when we see that term in the context of vipassana meditation, we mean the constant arising and disappearing of phenomena. And this can only be observed during vipassana meditation. In the same way, by dukkha, by suffering, we do not mean ordinary pain or ordinary illness. That is piñati dukkha. We mean the constant oppression by arising and disappearing. And this can also be seen only in vipassana meditation. Even in phenomena we call pleasurable. And you remember, dukkha is concealed by iddhiyabhata. Dukkha is concealed by posture. More specifically, there is always dukkha in our body. The whole mass of suffering in our body. But we conceal that pain by changing posture unmindfully. That is why yogi have to sit very still while they are meditating. If yogi avoids changing postures often, they will achieve mindfulness and concentration. A yogi will observe the nature of dukkha directly. So we have to be patient to discover the nature of dukkha. Our body has a whole mass of suffering. Anatta, no soul nature of all things, is concealed by gana, compactness. We usually see things as solid and compact. We have to train our minds through vipassana meditation to look at and analyze that compactness more closely. Just as a scientist uses a microscope to look at things in a laboratory, so yogis must use concentration in vipassana meditation to penetrate into the unsubstantial anatta nature of the aggregates. We must try to see through the apparently solid mass of mental and physical phenomena. Regarding material things, we try to analyze and we try to observe them as earth, water, fire, air, and other material properties. Regarding mental phenomena, we try to see that, for example, one phenomena is contact, phassa, another phenomena is feeling, vedana, another phenomena is perception, sanya. Although these may have been experienced very rapidly as only one mental event, both mental and physical phenomena are composed of only elements and forces. And so they have the nature of being anatta, unsubstantial. That is why when we practice meditation, we must try to observe everything very slowly, very precisely, in order to see that they are not held together with a core or an atta. For example, all mental states and material properties have their own function. Contact has one function, feeling has another function, perception, they have another function. If we see these mental phenomena as one connected whole, we fail to see them as parts with specific function, and we fail to see them as void of a central core. These mental states actually have different ways of taking objects and responding to them. Lobha attachment has one kind of response. Dosa hatred has another kind of response, etc. So we must see the individual differences of these mental states. We need to analyze and observe deeply to see that mind and matter have individual function and responses. on superficial observation and analysis. Everything seems to be compact, everything seems to be whole, solid, and substantial. We think that a book is very solid, but if we could look at this book under a microscope, it would appear full of holes with empty spaces like a sieve. Vipassana meditation is like using a microscope to see that all phenomena, all things are only elements and forces which are not unified by any kinds of core, by any kinds of atta, by any kinds of self. So during the practice of Vipassana meditation, when your mindfulness and concentration getting strengthened, you can break down the three concealment gradually. And you can remove the kilesa, mental defilements, step by step. So three kinds of removal. The first one, momentary removal, the Tingapahana. This removal or overcoming is just momentary, just by substitution. Next moment, mental defilements may come back. It is of a very short duration. It is called abandonment by substitution. Now you are noting, you are observing, you are practicing. So you abandon the unwholesome mental states by substituting them with the wholesome mental state. There's noting there is sati. When there is a wholesome mental state, there cannot be any unwholesome mental states. You put wholesome mental states in the place, and so unwholesome mental states do not get a chance to arise. That is called abandonment by substitution. That will last for a moment. The next moment they come back. So at the moment of Vipassana meditation, abhijja and domanassa, desire and discontent are removed in that way by substituting them with mindfulness and clear comprehension. When you stop Vipassana, when you get out of Vipassana, and you meet some condition for these kilesa to arise, then kilesa will arise. And second one is temporary removal, vaikambana pahana. So there is a kind of abandonment called temporary abandonment or abandonment by pushing away. When you push something away, it may stay for some time. It may not come back quickly, like plants in the water. If you push them away, they may stay away for some time. But then very slowly, they may come back. The kinds of abandonment is called temporary abandonment or temporary removal by pushing away. That is achieved by jhana. When yogi gets jhana, when yogi experiences jhana, you are able to push these mental defilements away for some time. Mental defilements may not come to your mind for a whole day, maybe a week or a month, etc. But in this case also, defilements can eventually come back. And the best one is total removal. That is samucceda, cutting off. Removal by cutting off, it is like you cut the root of a tree and it never grows back. So the total removal or removal once and for all is called removal by cutting off, and that is achieved at the moment of your enlightenment. The mental defilements eradicated at the moment of enlightenment never come back to the yogi. Arahants has eradicated all mental defilements. Arahants has no attachment, no anger, no pride, no jealousy, and other unwholesome mental states. Even though Arahants are provoked, they will not get angry. Even though Arahant may see a very, very attractive and beautiful object, they will not feel any attachment or desire for that object. Those are the person who have eradicated mental defilements by totally cutting them off. So these are three kinds of removing. And in the practice of vipassana, we can understand the two kinds of removing. Momentary removal is the first removing. And there can also be the second kinds of removing, temporary removal here. That is, if you have practiced meditation well and you are able to avoid abhijja and domanassa, desire and discontent with regard to the objects you observe, you will find that you are able to avoid desire and discontent even with regard to those objects that you do not observe. Here, do not observe means do not treat with mindfulness. Naturally, the objects we come across can cause desire and discontent in our minds. If we do not practice mindfulness on the objects, then we will have attachment or ill will towards that objects. That happens to most people. If you are good at vipassana practice and you have this experience of avoiding desire and discontent with regard to objects that are observed, you will find that you are able to prevent them from arising, even with regard to those that are not observed. That is what is called temporary removal by vipassana. Vipassana can achieve only these two kinds of removal: momentary removal and temporary removal. But vipassana cannot achieve the third one, samokcheda, the total removal. That will be done by your enlightenment or path consciousness. And when Buddha said, Vinaya loke ibija domanasam, overcoming desire and discontent in the world, he meant that a bhikkhu is able to avoid desire and discontent from arising with regard to that objects which he is observing. Here, abhijja, desire means all kinds of attachment, greed, lust, and other similar mental states, and grief, discontent. Domanassa means not just discontent, but anger, hatred, depression, sorrow, all are included in discontent. And there are three roots of unwholesomeness, and they are lobha, dosa, moha, attachment, anger, and ignorance. Among these trees, two are mentioned here in this Satipatthana Sutta, abhijja and domanassa. Abhijja, discontent, is actually the first one, which is lobha or attachment, and the second is dosa or domanassa, anger. So by desire, we means all shades of lobha, and by grief, we means all shades of dosa. Moha, ignorance, is not included here because moha, ignorance, is very difficult to prevent and eradicate. So we must understand that among practice, body contemplation, consciousness contemplation, feeling contemplation, Dharma contemplation, making effort, applying mindfulness, getting concentration and clear comprehending, and at the same time, a monk is able to avoid desire and discontent from arising. Overcoming desire and discontent refers to the overcoming of all the 5 mental hindrances. Because when abhijja and domanassa, desire and discontent, that are the strongest of the 5 hindrances, are mentioned here. And we must understand that another hindrances, tina, meda, sloth and torpor, udija, gogoja, restless and remorse, and vichikicca, skeptic and doubt, are also mentioned. And defilements can be eradicated during enlightenment. When we talk about enlightenment, we say at the moment of enlightenment, mental defilements are eradicated. What mental defilements, what kilesa are eradicated at that moment? The present one, or the past one, or the future ones? The past defilements are already past. We do not have to do anything to get rid of them. And future defilements are not yet here. So we cannot do anything about them. And what about the present defilements? If present defilements are present, there can be no enlightenment. Because enlightenment is a wholesome state, and those mental defilements are unwholesome states. Wholesome states and unwholesome states cannot exist together. They do not coexist. So mental defilements that are said to be eradicated at the moment of enlightenment are not of the past, not of the future, and not of the present. And then, what mental defilements are eradicated? Actually, strictly speaking, those are eradicated are not called mental defilements kilesa. They are called latency or anusaya in Pali. Anusaya means the potential to arise. What the enlightenment consciousness eradicates is that potential. That means when something is always with us, we say we have that things because it is always with us. For example, smoking. Suppose you smoke, but right now, during the practice of meditation, and now you are listening to the Dhamma talk, and you do not smoke. But if someone asks you, do you smoke? You will say, yes, I do. Because you smoked in the past, and you will smoke in the future, and you have not given up smoking. So although you are not smoking at this very moment, you say, Yes, I smoke. So, in the same way, right now, at this moment, you are practicing meditation, you are listening to the talk. So, I have no mental defilements in my mind, and also you are practicing, you have no mental defilements in your mind. But after practicing meditation, you go out and you step on something sharp or someone push you, and then you get angry. And thus the mental defilements comes when there are the condition for them. So we say we have mental defilements, I have mental defilements, you have mental defilements, but not right at this moment. So that liability to arise is what is eradicated by enlightenment. The mental defilements that are said to be eradicated at the moment of enlightenment are actually nothing but that ability or liability to come up. Anusaya. When they come up, they are already there. In the same way, here, Vinaya Loke Beja Dominasam, overcoming desire and discontent means avoiding or preventing them from arising in our minds. How? By the practice of mindfulness. Yogis make effort, yogi apply mindfulness, and yogi have concentration, and yogi see things clearly, correctly. When yogi see the aggregates clearly, there is no chance for these mental defilements to come into your mind. In this way, vipassana or mindfulness practice removes mental defilements. So yogi practice in this way, removing the mental defilements step by steps. And according to Venerable Sariputra, when a virtuous and instructed bhikkhu carefully attends to these 5 aggregates subject to clinging, it is possible that he may realize the fruits of stream entry. Sotapadiphala. Ime pinju padanakande nechato yoniso manasikronto sotapadiphalan sichikareya. This means that when a bhikkhu sees the 5 aggregates as impermanence and so on, it is possible that he will become a sotapanna. In order to become a sotapanna, what do you have to do? You have to observe the five aggregates of clinging as impermanence, as suffering, and as non-self. It is very important that when we are practicing vipassana meditation, we see these three characteristics, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, of the five aggregates of clinging that comprise mind and matter and all conditioned phenomena. When the characteristics are seen, yogi will begin to experience dispassion towards the five aggregates. Seeing impermanence, suffering, and non-self means that you see the arising and disappearing of the five aggregates. When you see the arising and disappearing, especially you see the disappearing, you will come to realize that the five aggregates disappearing every moment are fearsome. Five aggregate disappearing every moment is dangerous. Since they are disintegrating, since they are disappearing every moment, what happens if they should stop arising and disappearing? So if they stop, that is death. Death can come to us at every moment, which is a frightening thing about the five aggregates. So when we see that the aggregates are dangerous, we find fault with them. But in finding fault in them, we become dispassionate towards things. We are no longer attached to them. We no longer want them. We no longer want to possess them. So we turn away from them. This dispassionate attitude towards the five aggregates is very important, and it is called strong vipassana. Before that happened, vipassana is called young vipassana or tender vipassana. At this stage of seeing the aggregates rising and falling, and seeing that they are fearsome, yogi has not yet developed strong vipassana. Only when the stage of dispassion or disenchantment towards the five aggregates is reached, it is called strong vipassana. Strong vipassana will lead yogi to the attainment of enlightenment, to the attainment of stream entry. This is because when yogi becomes disenchanted with the five aggregates, yogi wants to get rid of them, to throw them away. So the yogi gives more time and perseverance to the practice. And in time, yogi will see the five aggregates are clinging as empty. But it is only when yogis see the five aggregates as impermanent, suffering, and non-self that the important stage of dispassion towards the aggregates can be reached. The phase of becoming dispassionate through seeing the three characteristics is vividly explained in the story about a man who tries to catch a fish. That can be found in detail in the uh, Visuddhimagga. Wanting to catch a fish, a man throw a net into the water. After some time, he thinks there is a fish in the net. So he become very happy. So that man plunks his hand into the water and takes hold of his catch. But when he lifts it up, he sees three identifying marks of the object. What is that? He watched carefully. He realized that he is holding not a fish, but a poisonous snake. At such a moment, how would he feel? First, he would feel fear because it is not a fish, but a poisonous snake that can kill with one bite. So that man is very afraid and see dangers in it. When he sees the danger, he becomes dispassionate and no longer wants what he has got. So he wants to turn away from it, to get freed on it, to throw it away and be delivered from it. But first, he wants to do something to prevent it from biting him. So that man takes a snake, swing it around, he says, 2 or 3 times to get momentum to throw it away. So in the same way, on becoming dispassionate towards the five aggregates, yogis needs to watch, yogi needs to observe the three characteristics, anicca, dukkha, and anatta again and again, in order not to fall back under the influence of the five aggregates. So to avoid being beaten by failure to see the three characteristics, he dwells on them more frequently. Yogi practice more. Then a time will come when his mind rush into the cessation of all conditioned phenomena, asinta. That rushing into what is unconditioned phenomena is what is meant by attaining enlightenment or taking nirvana as object. The preceding fish snake story is very appropriate. Until we see danger, we will not want to get away from something. Only when we see danger or when we see something false, we want to escape from them. That is why if we want to quit smoking, we have to see the real danger in smoking. If we want to quit drinking, we have to see the real dangers in drinking. Until the danger is seen, we will not want to give it up. It is a natural and logical sequence, not just somebody's theory. First, we need to see the object. Then we need to see that this object is nothing to be attached to. This object is nothing to be clung to, because now yogi have seen that it is false, impermanent, and so on. Only when yogi see its untrue or transitory nature, yogi wants to get away from something. This is why it is so important that we must first see the three characteristics in order to reach the stage of dispassion towards the five aggregates. And Venerable Sariputta said, if a virtuous bhikkhu see the five aggregates are clinging as impermanent, suffering, and non-self, and so on, there is the possibility that he may reach the stage of string entry and become a Sotapanna. So we continue next week. We have to stop our discourse for today by practicing vipassana meditation, by observing the five aggregates continuously, by noting rising, falling, sitting, touching, walking, standing, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, continuously and meticulously. May all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future.